Hello and welcome to the last part of our concluding discussions, and with this part we will be concluding our course, our discussion on the topics related to the course. So, welcome to this course on Foundation for Virtual and Augmented Reality Systems, and we are going to have the concluding remarks in this part of the course. So, before we conclude, let us summarize what we have learned so far. Now, whatever topics we have covered in the earlier lectures, we can broadly divide them into 6 modules. The first module was the introductory part, introduction. Module 2 included discussion on the hardware and software that are used for extended reality systems. In module 3, we talked about human factors and the extended reality systems, what are the relevant factors and why they are relevant, and how to utilize that knowledge for building extended reality systems. Then actual system development concepts were taken up in module 4, building of XR systems. Module 5 discussed about optimization concerns, an important topic under this overall foundational aspects of extended reality, and we are concluding our discussion in module 6, that is, first we linked the theory to implementation, and then in this today's lecture we are going to have the concluding remarks. Now, module 1, that is the introductory part, was spread over 12 lectures and week number 1 to 3. So, the introductory idea was introduced, what we had talked about in lecture number 1 in the first week. Then we talked about the application domains and system categories. So, first was introduction, then application domains and system categories. In lecture number 2 and lecture number 3, again in week 1 of the lecture. We also talked about various definitions, definition of AR, VR, presence, immersion, definition of MR, how definition wise AR, MR may not be separated, and so on in lecture number 4 and 5, again week 1. Then we talked about historical evolution of both AR and VR technologies. We covered it in lecture number 6 in week 1 and lecture number 7 in week 2. Issues and challenges were discussed, including a detailed discussion on the issue of cyber sickness. We devoted several lectures on it. So, these were taken up, the discussion on issues and challenges were taken up in lectures number 8 to 11 in week 2 and lectures number 12 in week 3. So, week numbers 1 and 2 were fully devoted to the introductory part, and week number 3, the first lecture, was also devoted to the introductory part. Let us talk about module 2. Now, there the topics were spread over 10 lectures covering weeks 3 to 5. So, we talked about the VR and AR hardware, what are the hardware technologies, tools, systems used to implement such systems. Essentially, those were a survey of such hardware. We covered those in lectures number 13 to 15 in week 3. We talked about tracking, the concept of tracking, the devices, the sensors, the methodologies, the basic understanding, all these things in lecture number 16 in week 3 and lecture number 17 and 18 in week 4. Now, the discussion included the concept, its importance in XR, why we need to know it, the hardware used, and the process of tracking. Also, we talked about the VR and AR software. Again, it is a kind of overview of the software systems used for AR and VR. It was spread over lecture number 19 to 21 in week 4 and lecture number 22 again in that should be week 5. So, here the module 2 was spread between week 3 and week 5. It covers mostly week 3 and 4 and one lecture in week 5. Module 3 was spread over 9 lectures and 2 weeks. The idea of XR as interactive system was the first topic we discussed, and why human factors are important consideration we discussed also under this topic. And those discussions took place in lecture numbers 23 to 26 in week 5. Then visual perception and display design covered under lecture number 27 in week 5 and lecture number 28 in week 6. Auditory sense and immersive experience discussed in lecture number 29 and 30 in week 6. Other senses and full immersion were discussed in lecture number 31 in week 6. So, these are the topics related to module 3, primarily covering the human factors and their role in extended reality systems and experiences. Module 4 was a bit extensive, detailed. The topics were spread over 17 lectures, the largest, and spread over 4 weeks, week 6 to 10. The idea of interactive system development life cycle was discussed in lecture number 32 in week 6. Then Majuli case study was discussed in lecture number 33 and 34 in week 7. We talked about the requirement gathering idea, particularly usability requirement gathering in lecture numbers 35 to 37 in week 7. We also talked about the system design aspects in lecture number 38 week 7 and lecture number 39 to 41 in week 8. System implementation aspects were discussed in lecture number 42 in week 8, lecture number 43 to 47 in week 9 and lecture number 48 in week 10. So, this module spanned over 17 lectures and 4 weeks. Module 5 talked about experience optimization. It was covered in 11 lectures and the span was between week number 10 to 12. So, we talked about VR experience optimization, lectures number 49 to 52 week 10 and lecture number 53 week 11, which included discussion on how to do it in practice, that is relating the theory with a case study, the case study that we introduced earlier. We also talked about VR resource optimization concerns. The discussion were done in lecture number 54 to 56 week 11 and lecture number 57 to 59 week 12. Here also we linked the discussion to practice through the case study, that is the Majuli Island virtual tour case study, how we implemented the resource optimization concerns, how we addressed the resource optimization concerns while implementing the case study. And the final module is module 6. There are 4 lectures. This is the smallest or shortest module. All 4 were there in week 12. We have just finished discussion on programming support for developers, which is primarily how to link the theoretical knowledge to practice, and we had that discussion with respect to the Unity platform spanning lecture number 60 to 62 in week 12 and then this concluding remarks lecture 63 in week 12 itself. Now, we have covered many topics. Of course, some topics we have not covered also. If you recollect, at the beginning we mentioned that XR is interdisciplinary. That means it takes input from multiple disciplines. Now, we covered some of the most fundamental disciplines, but some other disciplines, some other topics of interest are left. What are those? Let us have a quick look. So, for example, we did not have any discussion on computer vision, but we all know that in AR or MR particularly, it has huge potential as an enabling technology for building better applications. Also, while talking about resource optimization, we mentioned how we utilized the concept of cloud support for addressing the optimization concerns, but we did not have any discussion on cloud and edge computing concepts. But for scalable and affordable systems, these concepts are quite relevant. We also did not explicitly discuss machine learning or deep learning concepts, but as we all know, these are omnipresent concepts nowadays for building better experience, having more intelligent systems which can provide better experience. We did not cover LLMs, generative AI. LLM stands for large language models, generative AI. These can actually be utilized, and people are working on that, utilized for enhanced interactivity. Even IoT, Internet of Things, robotics, these are all relevant for these extended reality applications. Even blockchain technology also relevant for such applications, but we have not covered these areas, and there are some more areas similar to this type of diverse technology areas or disciplines. Our objective was to not to have mastery on each and every related discipline. That is not possible within the limited time period, limited scope. Instead, what we tried to do is to build a foundation on which you can further build your skill or knowledge. So, essentially we wanted to have this course help you build a foundation on which you can extend your knowledge, you can build on top of that foundation. I hope that the topics that we have covered, those are curated topics, these will be able to, or these topics will, or overall this course will help you achieve that objective, that is you build a foundation, then any other allied discipline that you need to know, you can extend your knowledge in that discipline based on the foundation that you get from this course. So, what are the relevant disciplines, what are the relevant technology areas from technology or system development point of view? I have mentioned few areas, but for a better understanding of those areas and why they are relevant, you can go through this reference. It got published last year itself, and it quite exhaustively talks about relevant research areas, relevant disciplines which is going to shape the future of extended reality applications. So, with that I would like to conclude the lecture as well as conclude the course. Just to repeat, objective is to create a foundation rather than master everything conceivable or associated with this discipline, and the foundational aspects we have covered, all the foundational aspects we have covered. I hope that you will be able to build the foundation by following the course material, following the lectures, and on top of it you can extend your expertise, you can extend your knowledge as required when you actually start practicing in the field. So, hope you enjoyed all the topics, you could follow the concepts we discussed, and I hope overall you get the foundational idea of this discipline. With that, let us conclude. Thank you, goodbye, and happy learning.